I am a broken sword. Once I was destiny itself. I drank the fire of the forge, the blood of men, and the tears of kings. Now I rest in silence. But if you listen, I will tell you what I remember. I was not always broken. Once I was a vision in the fire, glowing, molten, screaming with heat as the blacksmith's hammer fell upon me again and again. I remember the rhythm, iron on iron, sparks like falling stars in the dark forge. With every strike I was shaped not only into steel but into destiny. My maker's hands were calloused and scarred, yet steady. He whispered to me as he worked, not to the blade in his hand, but to the legacy he believed I would carry. You will serve a king's soldier. You will drink the blood of enemies and protect the honor of our land. His words sank into my very core, etched into the steel as deeply as the hammer's blows. When I was cooled and polished, I saw myself for the first time. My reflection gleamed back at me, flawless, sharp, unyielding. The blacksmith ran his thumb along my edge and smiled, though it cost him a drop of blood. I was proud of that cut. It meant I was alive, ready, eager to carve my name into history. I was taken to the barracks, wrapped in cloth, and laid before a young soldier. His name was Elric. His hands trembled when he first touched me, not out of weakness, but reverence. He had never held a weapon forged for war, never felt the weight of life and death resting in his grip. That day, our bond was sealed. I belonged to him and he to me. Days turned to weeks and we trained together. I cut through straw dummies, shattered wooden shields, and sang with every swing. Elric grew stronger, faster and braver. I could feel his heartbeat through the grip, each thundering pulse teaching me his fears, his hopes, his dreams. He would sit by the fire at night, polish me, whisper secrets into the air, believing no one listened. But I did. I heard of the girl he loved, of his longing to see glory on the battlefield, of his desire to prove himself to his father's ghost. Every word seeped into me, binding me to his soul. I was not just steel. I was memory, ambition, and promise. Together we would face the storm of war. Together we would carve our story into the earth. But destiny, as I would learn, does not care for dreams. Destiny only breaks. The day came when training gave way to destiny. I was carried across fields and villages, wrapped in leather, my steel hidden but my presence undeniable. Elric's grip was tighter than ever, his breath uneven, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and fire. We marched alongside dozens, then hundreds of men. The sound of boots on dirt was thunder, the clink of armor a relentless rhythm. Flags whipped in the wind, crimson banners against a storm-dark sky. I could feel the air growing, heavier, as though the earth itself anticipated blood. The enemy awaited us beyond the valley. Their steel shimmered in the morning light. Their voices rose like wolves howling before the hunt. Then, silence. A silence so thick that even the wind seemed to hold its breath. A horn was blown, and I was unleashed. Elric charged, his cry drowned in the roar of hundreds. I cut through the air, finding the first clash of steel. Sparks flew as I met another blade, my voice ringing louder than thunder. I tasted blood for the first time. Hot, metallic, fleeting. My edge bit into flesh and I felt life shudder, falter, and end. I was alive, truly alive. Yet with every strike, every scream, I wondered, was I a savior or merely a butcher's tool? Hours blurred into heartbeats. I was no longer polished steel, but crimson-stained and chipped. Arrows hissed overhead, spears cracked, bodies fell. The ground beneath us grew slick with mud and blood. Elric fought with desperation. His arms burned, his breath ragged, yet he held me firm as though I were the last piece of himself that remained unbroken. We struck down foes together, faceless men who cried for mercy, who cursed our names, who clung to life until I severed it. Did not hate them. I did not know them, but I remembered them. Each cut etched their existence into my steel. They would live within me, forever. As the sun set, the screams faded into groans, the thunder of war into silence. The field was a graveyard, the air thick with iron and smoke. Elric fell to his knees, clutching me as though I were more than steel, as though I were his last. Tethered to sanity, I felt his tears fall on my bloodied edge. That night, for the first time, I realized I was no longer just a sword. I was a keeper of death, a witness to the fragility of men and the cruel permanence of fate. The second dawn rose not with birdsong but with the cries of the dying. Smoke choked the valley, corpses littered the earth, and yet we marched once more. Elric's hands trembled as he fastened me to his belt. He was pale, his eyes hollow, yet his resolve burned brighter than ever. The enemy was not vanquished. They had regrouped, stronger, more desperate, hungrier for blood. The battlefield was their altar, and we were the sacrifices. The clash came swiftly. Shields shattered, armor rang, and I was once again drowned in crimson. Yet something was different. My edge dulled, my balance wavered. Each strike tore more of me away. I could feel the weakness spreading, a fracture growing deep within my core. It happened in a single heartbeat. A towering knight clad in blackened armor bore down upon Elric. His sword was heavier, his strength monstrous. Blow after blow rained down, and with each strike I screamed in protest. Sparks burst, my edge chipped, my spine trembled. Then came the moment. His blade descended like the hand of doom. Elric raised me to block, and with a deafening crack, I shattered. The world slowed. My edge broke away. My body splintered. I fell in two pieces. One in Elric's bleeding hands, the other cast into the mud. I was no longer a weapon. I was ruin, and Elric, he was left defenseless. Elric's cry split the air, a sound not of fear but of defiance. With half of me still gripped in his hand, he fought on. He swung the broken blade wildly, each strike more desperate than the last. Blood spilled, his own and his enemies', until at last a spear found his chest. He fell to his knees, clutching me still, unwilling to let go even as his life poured into the soil. His final breath trembled against my steel. His eyes dimmed, and for the first time, silence claimed him. Lay in pieces beside him, his blood and mine mingled as one. I had failed him, or perhaps destiny had failed us both. The battle raged on without me. Steel clashed, men screamed, kingdoms trembled, but I lay forgotten in the mud, broken, silent. I was no longer destiny, I was memory. I was proof that even steel shatters, that even the strongest bonds fall to ruin. Yet within me lingered the echoes, the clash of blades, the cries of war, the final heartbeat of a boy who dreamed of glory. I was broken, yes, but I remembered. I always would. After Elric's fall, I lay still. The battle raged on without me. The cries fading into whispers, the clash of steel into silence. Rain fell, washing blood into the soil. Mud swallowed me whole, burying me beneath layers of earth, stone, and time. Seasons passed. Grass grew tall where men had died. Forests crept into the valley. Generations were born, lived, and turned to dust. Empires rose and fell, their banners forgotten, their victories meaningless, and I remained, broken, rusting, silent. Yet even as my steel decayed, memory clung to me. The echo of war, the weight of Elric's final breath, they never left. I was both tomb and witness, prisoner and storyteller. Centuries later, the silence was broken. I felt vibrations in the soil, tools striking stone, voices shouting in excitement. Then came the light. Hands, soft and cautious, brushed away the dirt from my surface. I was lifted from the earth for the first time in hundreds of years. My broken edge glimmered faintly in the sun, rusted yet still proud. The man who held me was no soldier. He wore spectacles, his clothes clean of blood and dust, his hands careful rather than calloused. An archaeologist, they called him. To him, I was not a weapon but a relic, a puzzle piece of forgotten history. I was placed upon a velvet cloth, studied beneath lamps, my scars traced by curious fingers. Scholars spoke of the battles I must have seen, the hands that once wielded me, the empire that had long since turned to dust. They speculated, they theorized, but none of them truly knew. Only I did, yet I could not speak. I could only gleam faintly under the museum's lights, whispering silently to those who cared to listen. Some looked upon me and felt only curiosity. But others, they lingered. Their eyes grew distant as though they heard echoes I carried. The clash of steel, the cry of a boy named Elric, the shattering of destiny. I am no longer wielded in battle. I no longer taste blood or sing in the clash of steel. I am silent now, a fragment of history resting in the stillness of glass. But within me remain the echoes, the hammer's rhythm in the forge, the heartbeat of a young soldier, the chaos of war, the crack of my breaking, and the silence that followed. I am the broken sword. Once destiny, now memory. Once weapon, now witness. And though centuries may pass, I will never forget. And though centuries may pass, I will never forget. For I am not just broken steel. I am memory itself. This was my story, but many more objects still remember.